Hello, my name is Manuel Gonzalez, and I'm here today to give you a presentation on poetry. But first, let me start by telling you a little bit about myself. I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I'm Albuquerque's Poet Laureate Emeritus. And that's a big way to say that a few years ago I was named as the representative when it comes to poetry in Albuquerque. When I go out into the country, I represent Albuquerque and where I come from. When I'm here in Albuquerque, I represent poetry in this art form. And so that's what being poet laureate kind of means. I become like an ambassador when it comes to this art form in that way. But let me tell you, go back a little bit further. When I was little, I used to carry a notebook with me everywhere I went. And in that notebook, I would write rhymes or whatever popped into my head. I'd write poems and things that I would just want to put on paper to keep. But I was afraid that my friends would make fun of me, so I kept that notebook a secret. It was something I never showed anybody, and I would just kind of keep it to myself because I was afraid that my homies would clown me for writing poetry or something, and so I didn't show them. But eventually I started to show them what I wrote, and then it'd be like my friends would start to act like, hey Manuel, will you write that girl a poem so that I could tell her that I wrote it, and then maybe she'll like me. And so I wrote poems to try to get my friends dates, and it didn't always work, but it was a good reason to write. I got older, and me and my friends, we got into hip hop. I was the beatboxer, and we would cipher, we would freestyle, we would bust rhymes from the top of our head right at that moment all night long, and it'd be like, and I'd provide the beat while my friends would bust rhymes, and it was cool. But for me, hip hop was like cotton candy. It tasted good and it was fun. It just didn't have a lot of the vitamins in it that fed me in that way. So I was always looking for that thing that fed my soul. And one day I accidentally wandered into a poetry slam. And I don't know if any of you have ever been to a poetry slam or even know what one of those things is, but a poetry slam is a competition. And the way it works is every poet gets up on the stage, they recite a poem that they wrote themselves, and every poem is judged on a scale from 0 to 10. 0 is a poem that should never have been written, should have been left home. It leaves a bad smell on the stage when they're done. A 10 is a poem that changes your life. It changes your world. It makes you see colors that you never knew existed before. Now, sometimes I would get up on that stage and I would be so scared that my paper would be shaking, and I'd hide behind the paper to try to get through the poem. But when I got to the end, it was like I got tested by fire and made it out the other end, and so I was stronger. And that's what the poetry slam did for me. Now at the beginning I kept going, but I was losing. It was hard for me. I kept trying, and I'd get low scores because I was nervous, I was scared, and I didn't really know how to recite poetry properly in that way. But I kept going back and I didn't give up, and I kept trying my best, and eventually I started to win. And since then I've been the Albuquerque Poetry Slam champ 4 times, and I was named the Albuquerque Poet Laureate in that way. And poetry's taken me all over the world. Now, I said all that to let you know kind of the background that I came from, but let me tell you a little bit about the kind of poetry that I do. See, when I was young, I was a knucklehead. When I say a knucklehead, I mean I used to think with my knuckles a lot, and I got into a lot of trouble. I got in trouble at home. I got in trouble at school. I got in trouble with the law, and it's not because I was a bad person. It's not because there was something wrong with me. It's not because I needed to be punished and had to be taught a lesson. What it was is there was stuff in my life, stuff in my house, stuff that was going on to me and around me, and that stuff was painful. And I didn't want to talk about it. And I didn't want my friends to know that kind of stuff was going on, so I didn't talk about that stuff. And sometimes when you take the things in your life and you swallow them down and hide from them and push them into the pit of your stomach, the pit of your stomach can get hotter and heavier and harder to carry, and eventually it'll explode. It'll make you go do bad things. You find yourself out there doing males, not because you're a bad person, but because you didn't deal with all of that stuff that all of us have in our hearts in that way. And for me, I found sitting down and writing about how I feel and what made me feel that way is how I started to heal and cleanse my heart of those feelings in that way. And so I stopped getting into trouble and I started to find an art form that I fell in love with, and it's taken me all over. But the first step to getting there is you have to be real. You have to be sincere. You have to tell the truth in the best way you know how about how you feel and the feelings that you have in your heart. And we're going to get to that today because today's writing exercise is about emotions. And so we'll get to that in a minute. But first, I want to show you that the kind of poetry that I do is about emotion. It's about feelings. It's about trying to figure out why you feel the way you feel and what makes you feel that way. Now, I want to start by sharing a poem with you. And the poem that I'm choosing to share with you today is a poem about life. See, I told you about those hard and painful feelings that sometimes we hold in our heart in that way. Well, once you start to deal with that stuff, once you start to work with it and write about it or paint about it or dance about it or whatever you do to make it so that it doesn't stay inside of you, once you start to deal with that stuff, it makes room in your heart to see the wonder, beauty, and magic that is the world all around us and all the time. So this poem I'm going to share with you is titled Mi Vida Loca, and that's Spanish. And what it means in English is My Crazy Life. And what the poem is about is it's just a celebration of life and the beauty and everything that's going on. And it compares life to a dance. But you'll hear more as I read this poem. This poem I'm going to share now is Mi Vida Loca. Mi vida loca, my crazy life, full of magic and mystery. This life we lead, this road we walk, our shoes are tattered and torn, but still we dance. We dance to celebrate life. La vida. We dance our prayers into the soil, Mother Earth, Madre Tierra, as tears trickle down our cheeks. With passion and palmas con gusto, our grito can be heard, crying out our pain until it turns to laughter. After that, we laugh at our own mortality. Muerte and marigolds litter the streets of the South Valley as we build altars that honor our ancestors that are with us here in spirit. Finding silence in secret, sacred spaces, places where the river tells her tales, and cotton, it floats in the air like forgotten dreams, reminding us of our magic here in the moment, forever now. The river sings and her melody is mesmerizing, making music that was composed at the beginning of time, at the magic hour where the light is blue, where we are one, unmoving together in this melody and rhythm. We dance, this vida, this life full of locotes, this beautiful nightmare where we all bleed red and we all shed tears in secret. Together, we all cry alone, hiding the shame of our tears by avoiding eye contact because our eyes got big mouths and they'll snitch on you for the price of a glance. Don't give them a chance. And don't get dizzy because spinning is part of the dance. Like a Sufi, our spirals spin inward and our suffering is a sacrifice like the scars on a sun dancer's chest. But we don't speak of the things that we take seriously and hold sacred, like Santuario sand. Or a sage smudge stick sitting on an altar next to pictures of people in need of prayer. Metaki oasin, all our relations with gratitude. We give thanks for this life, this vida, this brief moment where our little light shines for less than the blink of an eye in the dream of time. And we awaken to find lagañas in our eyes, reminding us to bring back the signs and symbols from our dreams, the flowers in song, the flor y canto, the In Shoshit, in Siwat, the realization and contemplation, the sacred geometry and cosmology, our hope for the future, our grandchildren's songs that we're learning to hum today. Today we inherit the legacy of opportunity. Every morning the sun rises and we get another opportunity to feel this rhythm and dance, this vida, this awkward waltz with our shadows, this beautiful ballet of balance where we keep the ballerinas on their toes in this intense tango of terror and delight, two-stepping with La Muerte to the last song at the end of the night before the early bird begins to sing and we hear the world become washed in that blue light before dawn, the delicate light of an infant day, where we get another opportunity to shine, another moment, another chance to dance. Thank you. Okay, now that's the kind of poetry that I come from. See, poetry is about, just like some artists use clay to make a sculpture, some artists use paint to paint a portrait, poets use words, and that's the medium. That's how we express ourselves in that way. That's how we get out what's inside of us like that. Now today, you and me, we're going to go on a long journey, and that journey is going to be full of feelings, or at least one feeling. And so today we're going to do a special kind of poem. It's in a form. And what a form means is, think of it like a recipe. And if you follow the recipe, you might have a good tasting cake at the end of it or whatever you're making. But today we're using that recipe to make poetry. And the kind of poem we're going to write is called a pantoum. And a pantoum is a poem that uses repetition to reinforce the mood of the poem. Now, those are some words we're going to have to talk about. First, repetition. Repetition means to repeat stuff over and over again. Repetition means to repeat stuff over and over again. Repetition means to say it again till you get it. Now, that's how this poem is going to use repetition. Now, the mood of the poem is how it feels. So if you're writing an angry poem, this poem gets angrier. If you're writing a happy poem, the poem gets happier because we're using repetition to reinforce that mood. Now, in this poem, we're going to be talking about and writing about emotion. And you're going to compare your emotion to colors. You're going to compare your emotion to sounds. You're going to compare your emotion to time. And we're going to write about how this feeling feels. And I'm going to take you through every sentence so that I can help you write each one step by step. So don't even worry. And this is going to be easy. And it's going to be fun. And at the end, it should make you feel something. You should get all full of the feels when you do this poem, because this is one of those kind of poems. So in just a minute, I'm going to need you to gather something to write with, something to write on, and meet me over there at the table, because we're about to start talking about and writing about emotions. All right, you guys. Now, I'm going to tell you like this. I do this writing workshop that we're doing right now. I do it in middle schools, in high schools, in colleges, and I do it in detention centers and prisons. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do, sometimes I go into a room and there's some hard vatos in there, some mean guys in there, some tough guys. And I'm going to have to ask them, all right, guys, please put your feet flat on the floor as close as you can to doing that. And then I want you to breathe with me, because today we're going to get all full of the feels. Today we're going to write something that's real, and it might kind of hurt a little bit. It might be a little uncomfortable, but it's going to create something beautiful. So I'm going to invite everybody to sit like this with me. Try to sit up straight, and please breathe with me, in through your nose and out through your mouth. Do it again. Now, what I want you to do is look inside yourself. And I want you to find in your heart the name of an emotion. Now, This emotion is an emotion that you feel, that you know what it feels like so much that you'd be able to write a couple sentences about it. I want you to think of the name of an emotion. Some positive emotions are like love or joy or excitement or integrity or respect. I've heard all kinds of cool ones, but whatever emotion you choose, it's okay. Now, there's some negative emotions we can write about too. Like if you want to write about anger or depression or sadness, anything. What I'm asking you to do right now is to breathe deeply and try to find the name of an emotion that you want to write about. Now, I'm going to ask you to please keep breathing like this. Well, I go through the beginning of what you're about to write. I'm going to tell you what to write in the first 4 sentences. And don't worry, I'm going to virtually hold your hand and show you exactly what I want you to put on the paper. Because today we're going to write a special kind of poem called a pantoum. What a pantoum is it's a special kind of poem that uses repetition to reinforce the mood. Now, repetition means to repeat stuff. Repetition means to repeat stuff. You know what that means. It means to bring it back again so we can see it another time. The mood is how the poem feels. If it's angry, it's going to get angrier. If it's heartbroken, it's going to get more heartbroken. If it's excited, it's going to get more excited. I'm not telling you what emotion you're going to write about. You got to pick that. But pantoums use repetition in order to reinforce the mood. Now, what I want you to do now is get you a blank piece of paper, and at the top of that paper, I want you to write the name of an emotion. Now, this is the one and only time you're going to write that word. I think I'm going to write the word anger. Now, whatever emotion you pick, I want you to write that at the top of your page. And then I want you to write the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 going down the side of your page because we're about to write 4 sentences. Now, I'm going to go back to this other page of terms because these first 4 sentences will be your first stanza. And what a stanza is it's a section of poetry or a paragraph of poetry. Your first stanza will be 4 sentences long. And what a 4-line stanza is called a quatrain. A quatrain is a 4-line stanza, and you're about to write a quatrain right now. Now, what I'm going to invite you to do, if you haven't done it already, is to write numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 going down the side of your page. And then I want you to look within yourself and start trying to find and figure and understand what you're about to write about. You need to find the name of that emotion. And once you think of the name of that emotion, you're going to write it at the top of your page. I chose anger, so I wrote anger at the top of my page. I want you to pick one and write your emotion there. Now, I want you to just relax. We're not even writing anything right now. I want you to listen to what I'm asking you to do because you might change your idea from what you want to write about until I'm done with this little explanation right now. So if you change your emotion before you start writing, that's okay too. Because sometimes I might start out thinking I'm going to write about anger, but by the time we get to the done with this whole explanation, I think, no, I think I need to write about love today, and we're going to write a love poem. I don't know what you're going to write, but we're going to get there. Now, the first sentence I want you to write is a definition. Now, when I say a definition, don't get all scared. No, I don't want what the dictionary says. That's not what I'm asking you to do. I want you to tell me what that emotion feels like to you. But I do not want you to use the name of that emotion again. Once you pick it and write it at the top, don't write it again. Try a way to describe it without saying that word. So if I'm writing that first sentence and my first sentence is about anger, I want to tell you what it feels like to me. I'm going to write punching the wall. Until my knuckles hurt. Now, when it's time for you to write your sentence, I want you to tell me what it feels like to you. Like, if you're writing about love, it could be that moment when my mom hugs me and makes me feel better after I fall down and hurt myself. Or maybe joy is the sun shining on a warm day and there's a song in my mind and a spring in my step. Or maybe depression. I woke up this morning and the sun wouldn't shine and the shadows follow me everywhere I go and all I want to do is hide. I don't know. Whatever you're going to write, all you have to do is give me a sentence of what it feels like to you. Now I want you to pause the video and write your sentence. Okay, you wrote a sentence about what it feels like to you. The second sentence is color. Now, I want you to compare your emotion to a color. For instance, if I was writing about anger, I'm going to write red is a stop sign. And stops me in my tracks, I'm going to put 2. Now, I want you to think of a color that you see when you feel your emotion. Or maybe it's a color that resembles your emotion. Because for me, happiness could be a beautiful blue sky. Or depression can be the darkness that I just can't escape. Or happiness is the color of my grandmother's smile. See, poetry is fun like that. You can mix things and switch it around, and you can even talk about the colors of feelings or whatever. That's what we're doing right now. So I want you to pick a color and then tell me something that is that color that makes you feel that way. Or however you want, because you're the poet. You get to decide. All I'm really asking you to do is to tell me a color that feels like the emotion you picked. Now, if you haven't already written the sentence, now you can pause the video and write your sentence. All right, now this next one is fun. This next one is time. Now, see, some people get a little nervous when we start writing about time because I don't know, time is emotion. I don't know. What I'm trying to get you to do is to think about how when you feel the feeling that you picked, how it affects time. Sometimes, you ever seen a little kid that goes to the state fair or to I don't know, Disneyland or something? The kid that can't sit still for 2 minutes can stand in line for 2 hours for a 2-minute ride. Time gets affected. They say the cliche, the saying that we say is time flies when you're having fun. I want to know what happens to time when you're feeling the emotion that you picked. Maybe sometimes when we're angry, time passes and every moment passes painfully. I'm going to write that down. Every moment passes painfully. That's my time sentence. But I want you to tell me how it feels, how time is affected by your emotion. Now, if this is hard for you, if like that's kind of a little abstract for you, and I don't know if I can write a sentence about how my emotion is affected by time, you can give me a sentence that begins with the phrase, it happens when. Tell me it happens when, and tell me when you feel like that, and that can connect your emotion to time. But if you can figure out to tell me how time is affected by your emotion, then you're a time traveler, and that's pretty cool, and I think that's cool. All right, you can pause your video now and write a sentence about time. Okay, now this is the last sentence of our first stanza. The sentence is sentence number 4, and it's sound. I'm going to put cars crashing, metal bending, now I want you to think of sounds that sound like the emotion that you picked. I think love sounds like birds singing in the spring, or depression sounds like sobs muffled trying to be silent in the dark all alone. I don't know. Maybe Maybe joy is the sound of your favorite song on the radio. I don't know. Love can sound like a love song on the radio. Every time you turn it on, no matter what channel you put it on, it's a love song. Sometimes that happens when you're in love. I don't know. I want you to think of a sound that resembles your emotion or a sound you hear when you feel that emotion. I want you to pause your video and write a sentence that includes sounds. All right, you guys, we just got through our first stanza. That was 4 sentences. Now, what we're about to write is, remember I told you about the pantoum? Now, this is where things get tricky. This is where things get a little strange. And I need you to pay attention to the numbers that I'm about to write on the paper, because those numbers are going to tell you what to write in the sentence. Now, you wrote just now 1, 2, 3, and 4. I want you to write 2, 5, 4, and 6. I know that's weird. The first one is 1, 2, 3, and 4. Why doesn't the second one 5, 6, 7, 8? It don't work like that. This one is a different kind of poem. Remember I told you about the repetition? This number 2 is the same number 2 you already wrote. All you gotta do is copy it down. You gotta write it down again. Now it's like cheating off of your own homework. Like you don't gotta use no more brain juice to get that sentence out. I wrote red as a stop sign stops me in my tracks. Now, for those of you that are like, I don't feel like just writing it again, you are more than welcome to keep the color, but tell me something else that is that color. I'm gonna put red like fire. Burning in my heart. Oops, that's a D, not a B. See, I still write letters backwards sometimes. Burning in my heart. Now, number 5. Now, I'm going to write a star next to number 5. Now, the reason I drew a star over there next to number 5 is because number 5 is a new sentence. You can write whatever you want. There's no rules except it has to be about the emotion you chose, and you're not allowed to say that emotion's name. So I wrote anger. I'm gonna put my heart. No, I just wrote about heart in sentence 2. I'm not gonna do another heart sentence. Let's do pain and tears are my life. Ooh, that's when you get real mad. When you get real mad, when you get angry, just write me a sentence. Okay, now, remember I told you about the repetition. The number 4 is the same number 4 you already wrote. You can copy it all down. You can write it word for word. You can just all you gotta do is put that sound there. Or if you want to, and you don't have to, and it's okay if you don't, you can give me the same emotion but a different sound. So I'm gonna put anger to me sounds like shattering glass. But if you want to just write down the sentence you already wrote word for word, that's okay too. But I like to change it up a little bit sometimes. Okay, now number 6. It's a new sentence. You got to give me another sentence about that emotion you chose. Like if you're writing about love, you can tell me something else that makes you feel like that. Like the times late at night when you're sick and your mom sings to you till you fall asleep. Or if you're writing about depression, you can write about how my face never dries because the tears rolling down my cheeks won't stop. I don't know. But you can write another sentence about your feeling. It just has to be about their feeling. Now, I'm talking about mad feelings, angry feelings. I told you I put a star next to every new sentence. Angry feelings. Let's say I want to say what hurts, but I'm afraid. Okay, that's my number 6 sentence. Now, I want you to pause your video and I want you to write 2, 5, 4, 6. Number 2 is a number 2 you already wrote. Number 5 has a star next to it because it's a new sentence. Number 4 is the number 4 you already wrote. Number 6 has a star next to it because it's a new sentence. Pause your video and write your second stanza. All right, you guys, you have 2 stanzas down. The next one, pay attention to the numbers, is 5, 7, 6, 8. Now, number 5 is the number 5 I already wrote. I'm just going to write it again. Pain and tears are my life. Now, number 7, I'm going to write a star next to number 7. You guys remember why I did the star? It's because it's a new sentence. Now, something else that makes me mad. I see injustice all around me. Okay, that's my number 7. Now, number 6 is the number 6 I already wrote. I'm a little tired today. I don't think I have enough brain juice for that one again, so I'm just going to copy down what I already wrote. And I wrote, I want to say what hurts, but I'm afraid. I'm going to put a comma there because sometimes commas need to be there. Okay, but I'm afraid. Now, number 8 has a star next to it. It's a new sentence about what makes me mad. I'm gonna write hungry children. Inequality. Ignorance. And we got to get a good one. We got hungry children, inequality, ignorance, and I'm gonna say fear. Because you know what? Sometimes it's just because we're afraid. It's not because we're bad people that people act like that. All right, you guys. You're just about ready to pause your video and write these 4 sentences. Number 5 is the number 5 you already wrote. Number 7 has a star next to it because it's a new sentence. Number 6 is the number 6 you already wrote. And number 8 has a star next to it because it's a new sentence. Now pause. All right, you guys. Now it's time for our very last stanza. I know you've been using a lot of brain juice and it's been hard, and like you put a lot of heart into what you just wrote, and it's like, oof, we've been doing this a lot. Well, this is the last one. And the last 4 numbers, now pay attention to the numbers because the numbers are important, are 7, 3, 8, and 1. Now, I want you to look at this last stanza. I didn't write any more stars next to that last stanza. And you know why? Because there's no new sentences. Number 7 is the number 7 you already wrote. Number 3 is the number 3 you already wrote. Number 8 is the number 8 you already wrote. And number 1 is the number 1 you already wrote. Now, my number 7 is, I see justice all around me. I see justice all around me. Number 3 goes all the way back up here, and I wrote, every moment passes painfully. Every moment passes painfully. Now this number 8 is the number 8 I already wrote, and that one I just turned into like a list of things that make me mad, and I wrote hungry children. I wrote hungry children, inequality. I wrote hungry children, inequality, ignorance, and fear. Now, what's cool about this next sentence is it's the number one sentence, and what that does is that makes like a circle out of your poem, because you're gonna end your poem with the same sentence that you began your poem with. And I began the poem with punching the wall till my knuckles hurt. Until my knuckles hurt. Now, I want you to pause your video and write your last stanza. It's number 7, 3, 8, 1. Number 7 is the number 7 you wrote there. Number 3 is the number 3 you wrote there. Number 8 is the number 8. Number 1 is the number first sentence of your poem. Now pause your video and write your 4 sentences. All right, you guys. Now this is the part. This is my favorite part, because no poem is done until you shared it with somebody. So I'm going to invite you to find at least 3 separate people. I mean, they don't have to be separate. You can read them to 3 people all at once, but at least 3 people that will let you read them your poem. Now, the way I want you to read this poem when you read it out loud is you don't need to worry about the numbers. All you have to do is say the words that are on your page. Now, I'm going to share mine with you. Now, when you say your poem, I want you to say it like you mean it. That's all you got to do. You got to say it like the words are important to you, like you wrote those words because that's what you think. And so it's important that you don't mumble and that you say your words loud and clearly and you enunciate what you say. Now, check this out. My poem is about anger. It's punching the wall until my knuckles hurt. Red as a stop sign stops me in my tracks. Every moment passes painfully. Cars crashing, metal bending. Red like fire burning in my heart. Pain and tears are my life. Shattering glass. I want to say what hurts, but I'm afraid. Pain and tears are my life. I see injustice all around me. I want to say what hurts, but I'm afraid. Hungry children, inequality, ignorance, fear. I see injustice all around me. Every moment passes painfully. Hungry children, inequality, ignorance, fear. Punching the wall until my knuckles hurt. And that's my poem about anger. I want you to make sure you can feel the feeling that you wrote about when you say the poem that you wrote. That's what makes it real. That's what brings your authenticity to it, is by feeling it while you say it. Thank you. I'm glad you guys came and put your hearts on this page, and I hope some of you were brave enough to allow yourself to be vulnerable and let yourself tell the truth in what you wrote. Now, we just wrote an emotional poem. And in that poem, we followed these steps and followed the numbers and wrote our 4 stanzas. I need you to put your feet flat on the floor and breathe with me again. Because sometimes when we get all full of the feels, we need to ground ourselves, or at least just breathe to get some oxygen in our lungs to get us back to the normal everyday of our lives like that. So breathe with me. In through your nose and out through your mouth. And if you got mocos, you got to go blow your nose right now. Hurry up. I'll wait. Not really, but hurry up. Okay, now breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Do it again. I hope you wrote something that was real. I hope you wrote something authentic and sincere. I hope you wrote something that you're proud of. And it's okay if what you wrote hurt a little bit. And it's okay if what you wrote makes you a little bit more proud of yourself. Thank you for coming. Thank you for writing with me. Thank you for being here. And thank you for creating. My name is Manuel Gonzalez, and this was my Pantoum exercise.